Welcome to season 2 of the Energy Upgrade podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa, master biohacker and successful entrepreneur. In season 1 of the Energy Upgrade, you got to have a taste for my obsession in all things health, energy, entrepreneurship, spirituality, and biohacking, or how to take radical responsibility in living a life by design. As a certified health coach, integrated health practitioner, kinesiologist, and seasoned entrepreneur who built and sold a 7-figure business, I want to dive deeper in this season 2. After healing myself from burnout, from my health falling apart, my hormones leaving my body, I'm here to share everything I wish someone had told me. Every day, I have the incredible opportunity to be mentoring women and supporting them in becoming true magnetic energy bombs. I'm helping them remember who they were all along. It's so powerful that I want to take you in on the journey, almost as if you were a fly on the wall. You'll find that I'm not your typical health coach, and I'm not your typical business coach either. I'm somewhere in between with a lot of spirituality sprinkled in there. This podcast is a sacred place where I come and share with you things that will bring you a high return on investment, because yes, I'm all about ROI. Life goes fast, and if I can show you a shortcut or two, I'll have succeeded at bringing you value. Thank you for being here. Let's go.
Your time is now. Your energy is your life force. You want to be able to magnetize your wildest dreams. A liver detox is the fastest way to start healing. You can and you will.
Welcome back to the Energy Upgrade. This is Vanessa Grutman, your host, and today we have yet another powerful episode. I will be joined by Todd Steinberg, and we're going to be talking about breathing. Yes, I know it sounds easy and boring, but trust me, this is such an expensive conversation that I know you will enjoy. And yes, it does revolve around breathing, which is one of the most ancient technique that we have to completely disentangle, stop in its track anxiety. And as we know, well, anxiety is something that a lot of us are dealing with, right? This feeling of stress, overwhelm, maybe even panic attacks. Well, it turns out that when you breathe in a very particular way with a particular tool, you can actually disarm that. You can stop it in its track. And I'm excited to be shedding light on this very important aspect of our well-being, because often we think that we need fancy, complicated things, but really Mother Nature thought this through. We have all of it built in. And turns out Todd and his wife, Vanessa, actually co-founded a company called Kumuso, and they have designed something called a shift, which is a breathing tool that helps to elongate your exhale so that you can slow down your heart rate. I mean, the benefits are incredible, and we're going to be diving deeper into all of this in today's episode. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about Todd and how he got into this. Overwhelmed by stress and unable to meditate, Todd co-founded Kumuso Design following a euphoric experience with a straw breathing technique. After refining the technique and tool as a natural stress and anxiety reliever, as well as a tool that helps people quit smoking, sleep better, and find consistent peace of mind, Todd continues to take the guesswork out of breathwork for a community of 200,000 plus people wearing the world's first meditation tool, because the shift actually looks like a necklace, and it's such high quality and such beautifully designed. Turns out his wife, Vanessa, was also a jewelry designer. So it's so beautiful. I feel so aligned with this company. And also I'm so excited that they have agreed to be a sponsor for my upcoming retreat, the FAM retreat in Mexico, so that we can actually use this tool during our workshops, during our healing sessions, to actually tap deeper into, deeper realms of healing, if you will. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy this powerful conversation. You'll see Todd, his energy is contagious. I know you will enjoy this episode. Have fun. Todd, welcome to the Energy Upgrade podcast. I'm so excited for our conversation today. I know it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, Vanessa, I'm excited too. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So, a friend of mine that I made on social media, gotta love social media, connected me with your company and told me, okay, you have to learn about this shift thing. It's incredible. It helps to reduce anxiety, and I think your clients would really love it. So, she really piqued my interest. And, fast forward, now we are here having this conversation, and I'm excited to shed light on this wonderful product that you have created for our listeners. So, first of all, I'm curious to know, how did you dive into this whole industry of this shift, which is basically a breath work tool? I don't know if you call it like that, but tell me more. Like, how did you land on this?
Yeah, and by the way, thank you for having me. It's so great to connect with you and your audience. This is a complete accident. Goes back 7, 8 years ago. I was actually in student travel. So I managed a spring break business, if you could imagine that, taking thousands of college kids to Mexico. So there was a lot of stress, if you could imagine that. And it was back in the time where I had recently met my current wife, and we're both kind of feeling it, her and her career, myself and mine. And, we were really kind of proud of who we were at the time in terms of like, hey, we are doers, we're thinkers, we have high processors. And we came to understand that that was pretty much high functioning anxiety, which is cool. You can leverage that. You can use that. And a lot of us are successful because of that. But for me and for my wife, Vanessa, it was getting in our way in terms of the volume was high, but we didn't know when to turn it down or how to turn it down. So when it came time to like enjoy a moment or driving in traffic, our mind was always somewhere else. And, we weren't able to fall asleep quickly at night. When we woke up, we were kind of feeling that stress. So you fast forward to a conversation we had with one of our best friends, a therapist. And he's like, guys, look, it really is pretty simple. You just need to meditate. So we both tried it. And I'll never forget sitting cross-legged on the floor as he's guiding us through this. He's like, deep breath in, deep breath out, and back straight. All I could think was like, my hamstrings really hurt and my back hurts. And I just know me, I'm not going to take 20 minutes out of my day to do this every day. And look, like we love the apps, Headspace and Calm. They're all really effective when you are using them. But we're not going to just drop out of our lives in between meetings and jump into a headspace, right? So I'm like, look, is there some shortcut to this? And I'm not trying to like whitewash wellness here, but there's some way we can access a calmer state and a more controlled state, on and off throughout the day. And he's like, honestly, he uses this trick with his clients. It's called a straw breathing technique. And he literally handed me a straw from, I think it was like a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. He's like, just breathe through this for like 30 seconds. And my first thought after the first breath was, what is happening? Why after just one breath is I feel my heart rate coming down. I felt my shoulders relax. It was physiologically changing my state within seconds. And right then and there, I knew we had something. I knew it's like, I'm going to take this straw with me, if you don't mind, and I'm going to use this every day. So I brought it home. Vanessa was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then something weird happened. Like we didn't use it. And it was like, we just forgot about it. And it's like, we have 23,000 breaths a day. They're all offline. So then, my wife approached me and she's like, hey, what if we turn it into a necklace? Because she's a fashion designer, right? So I'm like, actually, that's a good idea. And then we started Googling it and we couldn't find it online. So I was like, all right, let's just create it. And now it's a brand. Now we have over 200,000 customers. And
That's crazy.
yeah, now people are using it because it's this centralized source that's hanging around your neck because when you're in it, right? When there's that thought that triggers the next thought, and that's catastrophic thinking. If you're in the car, if you're, doing your morning routine, we have kids, so it gets crazy over here. And it's just that immediate hit of calm that can kind of change the progression of your day from like, whoop, we're starting to lose it, to those like the thoughts racing, fight or flight, into rest and digest. And it's like, okay, cool. And I'm not saying you have to be this like Buddhist calm, but if you can get to a place of like clarity where you can actually see a little bit further ahead, you're not in the clouds, you don't have that cortisol rush, then you're actually able to make better decisions and your life elevates because of that. So that's our story.
Wow. That's so perfect. That's exactly the definition of, your soul's calling. You went through the experience yourself, you found a solution that worked for you, and you're like, let's spread this out. And now you said 200,000 people are using this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
I want to know more about how you picked up the name Kumuso. How did you come up with that? Tell me more.
Yeah. Not a common name, right? So it was like, this is how we knew that, the stars were aligning for us because it was, like intuitively it was special. We were on an art walk. This is days after we had the straw breathing technique, little, Frankenstein moment there. And we ran into this guy that was selling what looked like ancient flutes. And it just looked interesting. So we stopped by, hey, where do these come from? He's like, yeah, actually, there's these 17th century monks from Japan that used this flute to create meditation. And they wore a basket over their head. And that blocked out the ego. And they were really committed to their true selves. And they got there through breath. We're like, wait a second. Here is this tool, and this is ancient wisdom, right? That they were using to become present, true to themselves, and meditate. And we just use a straw, and there's science behind the nervous system and all that. It's like, we know people aren't going to wear or carry a flute with them. It's just not going to, we're not going to play music all day, right? Do you imagine whipping one of those things out in a meeting? Just not
The
practical.
basket over the head is my favorite part, actually.
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but you should try it because you cannot distract yourself when there's a basket over your head. You cannot pull your phone out. You can't really hear much. You're like really in tune with your state. And not
Ah,
don't really do that very often, right? So,
yeah.
so we're like, you know what? Tribute to the Kumuso monks. We're going to call it Kumuso. And the name of the necklace is the shift because it shifts your breath to shift your mind. And it's amazing what can be accomplished by just a few breaths that are controlled. And I'm not just talking about, a delightful deep breath. There's more to it than that, right? I didn't realize it at the time, but it's all about the exhale. And when you're extending your exhale, you probably talk about this a lot, is you're triggering your nervous system, through your vagus nerve, the largest nerve in your body, to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is when you're resting, when you're calm, when you're sleeping, right? Like,
Mhm.
so this can happen like a remote control. And it's like I always say it's so hard to control your mind with your mind, right? It's like it's
Yeah.
just like this battle. But when you can use something else in your diaphragm, which is so easy to control, but we just don't do it, we forget,
Yeah.
then there's like, oh, I actually do have control over this. And if you want to add the basket, just for extra effect, you could do that too. But it's just all like natural ways to calm yourself rather than having to find your headphones and tap into Wi-Fi, or to drop into a down dog into a full like yoga session, or to climb a mountain. Like, who has
Or,
time?
take some supplements or whatever, right? It's utilizing the body's inner power,
Yeah.
right?
And then something amazing happens because then you start doing that more often and you start realizing the power of compounding interest, right? Which is where, okay, my brain is starting to understand that this is good for me. So now I'm gravitating more to that. And when you do that more often, because we take 23,000 breaths per day, that's a real number. When you interact that with 50,000 thoughts, and this is
Mm.
just a sidebar, like we have 50,000 thoughts a day, right? 80% of those were studied to be negative by the American Psychological Foundation. And here's the kicker: 90% of those thoughts repeat the next day. So like
I
we're
know.
in this stress cycle. And if I could just ask your audience, I know I can't hear your answer, but like name the top three things you worry about every day. It's the same stuff. Worried
Mhm.
about money, the kids, like it's just like the same things keep coming up. And it's like, it's okay that those thoughts help protect us, right? Like our limbic system, like that's how we work through those things with the amygdala. But when you overdo it, and when those thoughts are just ruminating on the same thing over and over again, kind of build that habit and that pattern. So it's like, if you want to break that pattern, you start breathing consciously, and that rolls into your brain changing over the course of like 30 to 60 days. That's kind of how long it takes. And now you're realizing that you're kind of in, I mean, imagine this. Imagine being in a better mood and being like, why? Like, because you know the other way around, right? You know when you're in like a weird mood, or you're like annoyed for no reason, or somebody reminds you that you're annoyed for no reason. It's like you don't know how you got there, but you're overstimulated, you're dysregulated. And there's things that happen in our life with our phones and tech and life
Oh,
and
yeah.
thought. It's like it's all heavy, like we're burned out, we're
Mhm.
overstimulated. So it's like moments of pause where you can just engage with your breath. it kind of sends you a wake up signal. It's like, oh yeah, like this feels good. And then you start doing that more often. And it's like, hey, before you know it, you're like, you went from like being at a 6 from a 1 to a 10 on a mood scale to like a 7.5 and 8. And my goodness, that feels like really cool because then other people start to notice and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, did you meet somebody? Like, what happened? So it's
I'm
just a
breathing.
yeah,
Yes.
consciously.
Right? Because most of us are shallow breathing through the day, especially when we're at work, we're, in front of the computer. We don't even notice it, but we're actually not even engaging most of our diaphragm. So I feel like you want to add something
Yeah,
there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have to talk about this because it's so important. And I stumbled on this accidentally as well. And then I researched it and I was like, oh, yeah, of course. I one day I was scrolling through my phone, right, aimlessly for no purpose. I was just taking a break, right? A break was something stimulating. It's not a break, right?
Yeah.
So remember that, guys. Like it's not a break. That's actually just, another segue into more information. So I realized that I was holding my breath and I didn't really know why. And then after some research and after I just kind of experimented with myself, I was like, okay, this is what happened. I got a notification. I didn't have to open my phone, right? But there was a notification and then I realized that there's something that I call anticipation anxiety, right? And that's where it could be a text message, a DM, anything, and your brain automatically goes to what is that? What message is it? Is it bad news?
Mhm.
Is it good news? Is everybody okay? Is there something happening in the news? What should I know about this? And this is all happening like in the background, right? Like it's not good, right? That's just like you need to be focused on one thing. And if you're obviously successful in your career, you understand what deep work is and deep focus. You can't go into deep work if you're getting interrupted every 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. It's like REM sleep. You need time to get into it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my phone and I'm realizing I'm holding my breath. And this is it's actually a name for this. It's called tech apnea or screen apnea. You
Huh.
hold your breath when you look at a screen. It could be your phone, your computer. And if you're not doing that, sometimes you're just shallow breathing because the anticipation of what's next. And if you're scrolling, especially on social or any news feed, which let's face it, we all have our LinkedIn's and Instagrams and all that stuff and news.
Mhm.
It's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? That's not that's not how our brains were meant to receive information. So my advice for people that have technology, which is everybody, is be conscious of the screen. And my little hack is before you open your phone, deep breath, deep exhale.
Mm.
Because if you do that, then you're at least conscious of, okay, I know how I'm breathing and I have power. I have agency over what I'm doing and I can put the phone down and control the addiction. Because let's face it, like it's full on an addiction. I can admit that I have an addiction to my phone and my tech. And obviously I'm mindful of that when I'm around my kids and my family, but it's hard. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
Uh, and then finally here, this is all statistics. Like we consume more information. It's a real fact. We consume more information in one day than hunters and gatherers did thousands of years ago, even hundreds of years ago before technology. There's something happening here. There's an imbalance. So we have to take those little sips and timeouts of breath breaks, is what we call them. Those are critical because it allows your body and mind to just take a little bit of a reset and then come back to it. And the one person who actually does a really good job of that, it's funny, is Martha Stewart. She's famous for having super high energy, and people are like, "How do you do it? How do you, at 9 o'clock at night?" She's bustling with ideas, and that's because she takes breaks throughout the day. Like that's her big secret, guys. She just takes she
Mm.
goes for walks, takes breath breaks. Like this isn't. There's no like secret supplement that she's on, and obviously she's on a different level, but like these are things we can do. These are practical. These are realistic.
Totally. I love that. And it just keeps remind me. I think I told you that last time we spoke when I was healing myself from burnout and I just was so ingrained in this like go, 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 hustle, hustle. And then I had to learn to reverse engineer and start to slow down. It was so hard. And that's when I realized I wasn't breathing most of the time at work. So I started putting an alarm. And
Yeah.
some of my clients listening to this are going to laugh because I get some of them to do that. Like literally, I would put an alarm every hour on my phone as a reminder to breathe. How pathetic is that? But it really took me out of a dark hole. I swear it was crazy. And sometimes I would be right in the middle of a call like this, or I'd be in the middle of a call with a client and my alarm would ring and I would just say, okay, deep breath and we would take it together. And I always committed to taking 5
Yep.
belly breaths. And I just found like that was really profound. Like it was just getting me to be a bit more regulated. So now I love that I could just, I'm just going to use the shift.
But at what points during your day do you feel the most, let's call it overstimulated, burned out, or triggered still? Because obviously stress is still a part of your life.
For sure. Well, to me, I find end of the day when I'm trying to make everything wrapped up before I go and get the kids. That's usually, in the morning I have no problem. I take, a couple hours to myself. I go and walk. That's really important to me and I tap into my creativity. But it's more in the afternoon, like crunch time at the end of the day when, decision fatigue also settles in and all the things. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's usually when it happens.
And that's where I forgot who said it. Maybe it was, no, I don't remember, but it was such good advice. And it was, here's how you understand how happy you are. And it had me on the edge of my seat. Tim Ferriss, that's who it was. He said, that moment right before or right when you get in bed, you put your head on your pillow, and the moment when you first open your eyes, how do you feel? What is your state of mind at that point in time? Because then it's just like, let's look at it. It's you versus you, right? It's you in your own head, and you are taking in that inventory of your day. Okay, like how was today? How did I do? Was I efficient? Did I get things done? What's happening tomorrow? Does that feel okay for you? Are you in a state where it's like, yeah, like good job, pat yourself on the back? Are you being a friend to yourself? Or you're like, here we go again. I didn't do enough again. And, tomorrow I have to deal with this. It's like, imagine going to sleep like that for how many nights in a row. And, there's another statistic that from the first onset of physical symptoms, right? Like just something small within mental health, it takes someone 11 years to see, a therapist or anyone, clinician. That's a really, really dangerous statistic. So one way to understand kind of like checking in, like is at night and in the morning, like in the morning, what do you wake up into? Like, are you taking that moment? Like you said, you go for those walks, you start your day slow. I think that's so critical because how many of us race into our day and it's like, I have to fill this day with all these check marks and boxes and feel good. But like, is there a way to kind of reboot that system where the priority and the emphasis isn't always on efficiencies? Maybe it's about how do I feel good today? What would it take for me to feel good today? And then what if it's just a smaller shift? And that shift could simply just be adding a few breaks to your day, whether that's going for a walk or simply getting in a squatting position. I mean, just doing that is getting blood flow to your body. And there's all these reports on longevity, and I'm like really into that right now in terms of all the research. And it's like I keep seeing the same things pop up, which is the people are these centenarians living to 100 plus. They're doing the same things. They're interacting with people, real conversations, not just screen time. They're surprisingly they're having wine every day at 5 o'clock.
I know, right? The blue zones. I know. But they're saying that the wine, the reason why this is working is because they're not having it alone. It's part of a social component. And it's like before dinner, they meet together, they catch up on, they exchange, and that brings more value. So the wine is sort of the excuse that gets them together. After the recent success of High Achiever, my last event, I wanted to deepen the work. I wanted to create a container, a vortex, where we could go even deeper as a sisterhood. And the idea of the portal came along. And this is going to happen on June 6th. Why? Because this is actually a potent portal for transformation, for claiming our truth and our power, which is just so perfect. Because I want to take you into the Jaguar energy. The Jaguar reminds me of the woman who leads herself in the dark, the woman who is crystal clear on her vision. Despite maybe lack of evidences, she knows exactly where she's going, even in the dark. And that allows her to stay ahead, to lead the pack. That allows her to stay in her trailblazer visionary seat. And if that's you, I want to invite you to come and ignite using the solar power energy. I want you to ignite your intuition to unlock more effortless potential. And most importantly, this inner trust, this inner surrender, which is perfectly aligned with this summer solstice that is coming up also in June. Now, if you're ready for a different kind of event, if you're ready for this 2-hour ceremony of remembrance that will take place on June 6th, there will be limited spots. I want to create a very intimate circle. It'll be $33, and this will allow you to come in this portal energy where we will help high achieving women of the new world, just like you, to activate your infinite light, because that is why you are here, my dear. I hope to see you there. It's going to be so incredible. I'm counting the sleeps.
Yeah, and then the one that I've been really hooked on lately is it touches a personal chord here is like this guy that Sunil Gupta, he just wrote a book called Everyday Dharma, and it's about finding really your purpose and how your purpose extends your life because you're so much more dialed in. And purpose doesn't have to be your career, right? Purpose can be your kids, can be yourself,
Yeah.
it can be self-growth. I don't know, but it's something that you have to feel connected to something.
Yeah.
And if you're not, like, I know it's like it's hard to get there, right? But if you can start thinking about that more, just turning a light bulb on to that, then that's going to help you not only feel good now and get more out of every moment, but it's going to extend your life. Like, isn't that cool? Like just that.
Totally. And, people listening might be like, why are we talking about purpose now? I thought we were talking about breathing. Well, turns out if you're breathing, more intentionally, you are decreasing your stress hormones, which also puts you more in that state where you can tap into your creative energy, and you can also get deeper into healing. You can get rid of old stories. Like, the whole reprogramming happens when you are in that state, not when you are hustling and rushing. So I find, just the way I help my clients too, actually, it is through little things like breathing, like taking care of ourselves, like taking breaks, that we will rediscover ourselves more and more. Oh, that was really nice. Oh, I enjoyed that. Right. Because when
Yeah.
do we take the time to check in with ourselves? Never. So
But oh, sorry to cut you off there. No, and this is actually something that you just triggered this memory. Like, it's not just you're not just affecting you. When you're breathing that way, there's co-regulation, right? So
Mhm.
when you and I are talking, and that person that's, I'm sure you've been around people where they're stressed out or they're tight or tense, and that energy is shared,
Oh,
like
yeah, totally.
it's not fun because it's like you're kind of like sharing in their stress, and it's like, all right, and you could just kind of sense it. You can just look at their upper chest and see that they're breathing into their upper diaphragm, right? Taking
Mhm.
like sips of air. So it's like when you're taking that moment, and you might be around somebody, you might not, but like if they're in the room or if they're in front of you, like you're helping them. And those of you with kids, like you're helping them when they see mommy or daddy taking those deep breaths like my kids do. They're like, oh, and now I see my kids, who are 4 and 5, by the way, like they're
Woo.
just getting started, but like they understand how important breathing is because it's an opportunity. It's like, here we go, 23,000 breaths a day, like 23,000 opportunities. And then you start doing it as a habit. It's like, all right, like something's happening here. It feels good.
Yeah, and kids are just so intuitive with regards to what's right for them in their body. And so they tend to be better at it anyway, because also they have less stories in their heads.
Yeah. And I
Usually.
mean, they're just learning how to co-regulate or how to regulate their own nervous system. And, you think back to when you were a kid, because I think back to mine, and nobody ever taught, I don't know about you, nobody ever taught me how to breathe. They would
Gosh,
just like, hey,
no.
take a deep breath was like the best I got. And it was, how do I do that? And it looked like this.
Yeah,
Like,
usually. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Like, how do we take the right deep breath, and how can we utilize the shift to amplify the benefits of that? Because
yeah, thank you.
everybody here listening is all about ROI. You and I are as well. So let's get a return on investment of time.
Yeah. I love the way you phrase that, ROI. Yeah. I mean, and the good part about this is it doesn't take a big investment, right? This is a simple, and it's like, if you haven't read the book Breath by James Nestor, please do.
Oh,
literally
So
teaches
good.
you how to breathe and how the way you're breathing affects the shape of your mouth and how long you
Oh,
live. And I mean, the Stanford studies it's just incredible. So if you're mouth breathing, please don't, because
please
mouth
stop right now.
please for all of us. It's hurting you. It's just like you're not filtering the air through your mouth. It's mostly just the inhale, but when you're inhaling through your nose, you're getting more nitrous oxide into your lungs, which means more oxygen. You're taking slower breaths, which is the most important thing. And to take a breath with the shift is pretty simple. You're just going to take a deep inhale through your nose. You're not going to take it into your upper chest. You're going to, like you said before, you're going to take it into your belly, into your diaphragm to fill it up. So if you want to just put your hands on your ribs, you want to feel your ribs extending out like a balloon. And then pause and simply let the exhale flow through the shift like this. And what you're noticing is like, it's so simple what I just did, but just that alone is going to take your exhale 3-4x what it normally is. And because that's unusual, it sends that trigger up on that superhighway to your brain saying, oh, okay, whatever was happening was maybe like a false alarm. And now we're getting the signal that it's like everything
We're
is calm.
okay. Mhm.
Right. Everything's okay. And if you do, like you said, 5 in a row, now you're at about 2 minutes of breathing what the experts say you should be doing 6 breaths a minute. And like most of us are at like 20 plus breaths per minute. And just thinking about the animal kingdom really quick, like you look at a mouse, takes about 100 breaths per minute and lives what, like almost 2 years. And then you have a tortoise that is taking about 4 breaths per minute. You ever listen to a tortoise breathe? It is a wild thing because you're just like barely breathing. I mean, you watch how
Wow.
fast they're moving, and they're living up to 200 years, right?
Hmm.
So correlational, maybe not causation, but there's something there. And if we could just slow it down, we're going to
Hmm.
be able to get more clarity. And again, I don't think the emphasis is on being the Zen master, but if we can just make the emphasis on getting some clarity, like that could go a long way, especially with the little drips of that. So try to like the hardest part here, and I know it is for you too, is, and I love that you set your alarms because that's awesome. Don't be ashamed of that. That's amazing.
I
Like
don't
you're
do that anymore. I feel like I'm good now. I've learned to rewire my brain and I can breathe and but yeah. Anyway.
yeah, no, but it's awareness is like 90% of the battle because if you're
Always.
not aware, and like that is for me, that's my superpower. Like, how would I have even known that I had tech apnea if I wasn't aware of it? Because I'm constantly aware of my breath. Obviously, this is my career, right? But I'm aware of it. So now, even when I'm with my wife, right, and she says something that like the slightest thing that I normally would get annoyed by, I'm like, okay, I just felt a little bit of a tick up in my heart rate, right? Because like I don't like what you just said, and so
Hmm.
normally I would just not even be aware of that, and then like 10 minutes later, we're maybe in an argument, and it's like, where did that come from? You ever get into like these mysterious
Yes.
arguments? So it's like, or you're just even with yourself, right? So it's like, but when you're aware of that first little uptick in, let's just call it a nuisance, or maybe that one thought that is like, did I take the laundry out of the washer? And it's like, I don't know. And then if you let that kind of go and that burner is still on, like you
Yeah.
left it on. So turn it off, be like, you know what? It doesn't matter because I can't control that right now, right? Like I'm at the office, I'm in the car, can't do that. So, but if you can notice your breath being shallow, that's your mind telling your breath like, hey, we got something to worry about right now. Because what your mind is preparing your body for is fight or flight. Like
Hmm.
like dark alley, you hear something like good. You hold your breath there, good, because you're gonna need that, that extra cortisol and adrenaline to fight somebody or run. But
Yeah.
I think we're really dealing with a lot of that throughout the day. So if we can just be hyper aware of what's happening in our body as a response to the manifestation of stress in the mind, that is going to allow you, even some people feel it in their knees, like in their back. I mean, I'm sure like everyone
Yeah.
has
And
tight
like blood pressure, right? High
all of
blood
it.
pressure sometimes is just that.
But it's like, how do we sense it? And it's hard. It's like you kind of you don't have to be a mindfulness ninja to figure these things out. But if you're just more in tune with, like, you think of your body like a wind chime, the slightest little, you know, tingle in your body, it's like, okay, something happened. What is it? Let's track it down, and it's just
Hmm.
being this hyper vigilant person about, and I'm sorry, I don't want to add another thing you have to think about throughout your day. But if you're aware of it, then you're in a position, like you're in the driver's seat then. Because if you understand that little hit of stress and you can catch it at a 2 or a 3, you're not having to go all the way down from like an 8 or a 9, because that's
Yeah.
hard. Like that takes minutes and minutes, because you're having to get your heart rate down, your blood pressure down, you're having to wash the cortisol out. Like this is something that it's like, oh, I see it, and now I'm going to maneuver it down. And then once you build the habit of doing that, then it becomes like second nature, and you don't have to think about it as much. It's just your natural reaction to it. So
Mhm.
something to think about.
But I love that, here you have a tool that it's actually really beautiful and you wear that in your neck. So like you have it with you 24/7. You're not dependent on Wi-Fi, like all of these meditation apps. You're not dependent on anything. You can do this anywhere, which is a fantastic way to just reset, ground yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for bringing that up. It's funny because like most of our reviews and the people I talk to about using the tool, they always say the same thing. Like when I use it, people ask me like, "What is that? What can I?" And then can I use it? Because
Yeah.
they understand like, "Wait, you're meditating? That's amazing. I thought it was a whistle, or I didn't understand." And I think the importance of being offline is something that's not an accident with this. We have said so many, business advisors that were like, you guys need to put a chip in there and hook it up to your phone so that you can measure your exhales and measure the carbon dioxide release. And all. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like that runs, like opposite to what we're trying to achieve here, which is like we're trying to go back to ancient wisdom. Like
Hmm.
the monks didn't need apps. They
No.
didn't need Wi-Fi to feel good. Like we want to go, and I understand the craze about AI and like it's gonna make our lives more convenient. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. In certain areas it will. Technology obviously is a huge benefit in some areas.
Yeah.
But we want people to really come back to their bodies, to be able to say, hey, no matter where I am, I have this like built-in switch in my body through breath
Hmm.
that, and like I said, what, 23,000 breaths a day, like it's just happening like all the time. And to know that you're one breath away or a few breaths away from feeling at least calmer, like I said, clearer. You don't have to be the Zen master, but you can feel clear in that moment. Think of how many decisions that can lead to within your business. And like just speaking about business, there's a survey of all like this Fortune 500 CEOs and uh, co-founders of these huge brands, and they're like, out of all your decisions, what can you say was the best like variable within those decisions, like being bad or good? And they said more often it wasn't the research, it was my intuition. My
Hmm.
intuition, that voice within, it guided me to the right decision. But here's the catch. Like I think of it like a radio dial, right? Like you have to ghost, you have to find that that
Yes,
that
the
that tune,
frequency. Yes.
frequency. Thank you. And once you find that frequency, you can hear that voice a little bit better. It comes in, it's clear. But if you're elevated, or if you're, if you have a little bit of that stress, it's harder to tune in because that cortisol kind of clouds your frontal cortex. You're not able to hear it really. So when you're breathing, and on the back of the tool, we engraved "be still" in Japanese and kanji, because the message is stillness. It's like, how often can you sit, whether it's in your car, in your house, wherever, still, without anything? I mean, no phone, no screen, no music, and just hang out with yourself and what's happening while you're doing that. Because if you do it more often, you'll find that stillness leads you to the intuition. And that's kind of like the meditative experiment. It's like, whoa, you'll find, at least I found, that there's a universe that's pulling you towards some direction, that if the noise is too loud, you kind of can't hear it. So I know that gets a little bit out there, but like I
No, I
swear
love
I use it all the
this.
time.
It's exactly that, right? And you can be like, wait, what? That was inside of me? Like, wow, it's pretty incredible. The
Yeah, and
wisdom
it
we
kind of,
hold.
right. And it goes back to like these Stoic principles. This Stoic philosophy is really interesting in that they believe that the obstacle is the way, right? So if there's something in your life that you're struggling with, it's a signal, and it's like, hey, I know this hurts, I know it sucks, but if you lean into it, it's going to lead you down the right path. Because I'm sure you can look back to times in your life where it's like, well, at the time, I really, really hated that thing, whatever happened, but it led me to this other thing. And so if you adopt that philosophy, then at least you're not like, there is no winning and losing, right? It's like the
Yeah.
losing is a part of, was it Nelson Mandela said, like, there's winning and there's learning, right? So it's like, if you can learn from it, then it's like, all right, but I'm getting stronger. If you think about exercising, you're tearing apart muscle fibers, right? And then they're coming back stronger. So it's super hard in the moment because it just,
Yeah.
things, they don't go your way. And it's like, come on. But if you can get that moment of separation between that moment and get a deep breath in there or two, right? Then you're able to maybe look at it and be like, all right, this doesn't feel great right now, but if I can get the right perspective on it, this might lead to something. And it's kind of tapping me on the shoulder and saying, hey, I know you think you should be looking left, but you really need to look right because the answer is right there. And it takes time
Mm.
to unravel, but there's just so many cool ways to change your perspective.
I yeah, I love that so much. And while you were talking, I was just thinking, imagine a world where everybody before answering an email is taking a few deep breaths. Like imagine.
I mean, I've sent those emails. I am guilty as charged
Me
of,
too. Me too.
and
Yeah.
my rule now is if your heart rate is up, don't hit send.
No.
Because it's like this little voice in you that's like, yeah, like
Yeah.
you tell them,
Revenge.
but it never works out. And then I used to, it had that the cringe at the end of it where I'm looking at the email like 20 minutes later and then being like, yeah, that probably didn't come off the right way. And then you end up regretting it. It's like this huge thing. You have to apologize. So it's like
Yeah.
just
Why?
make decisions, right? Make decisions with a deeper breath. And it's like those little micro decisions that you don't think matter. It's like they all lead to the next thing and it adds up to your current reality. And that's where you find yourself in a state of, we were talking about it earlier, coming full circle now. At the end of the day, ooh, life can get heavy because you start to add up, you do the math, right? And you come up with a negative number, and it's like, well, how did I get there? And look, some days are tough, right? That's just how it is. But, if those little decisions can add up better by taking maybe a few of those breaks, let's all be like Martha Stewart, let's
Yes,
take
I
those
love
breaks.
that.
Like if you're doing back to back to back meetings, you got to get some time in there. Like there's this new hack that is scheduling meetings. I haven't tried this yet, but I want to try it. Scheduling a meeting instead of like, let's say you're going to go from 1 to 2, schedule it for like 2:07. Because what happens is you end up getting in everything. But if you have until, 2 o'clock, you're just going to kind of keep going. So you can take those 5, 6 minutes at the beginning of the hour to reset
Yeah.
and maybe to take a lap or to stretch or breathe or do something that is not screen. You're going to find that your mind is fresher. Like I did it right before this meeting. I did it. I just took a little bit of a lap and it was like, just
Yeah.
feel good.
Yeah. All my coaching calls now are 45 minutes. I'm not doing 60 minutes anymore because of that. It's too much. It's like back to back to back. I need a breather. I need to like freshen up my thoughts, even if it's just like to go up and drink some water and, breathe. And
Yeah, but even like
that's,
just
yeah.
the science of it, like when we're talking right now, we're actually breathing wrong. Because when you talk, you're
Yeah.
not breathing through your nose, right?
Yeah.
You're breathing kind of quickly. You're getting sips of air when you can. And when you do that for 2, 3 hours, even at the end of 60 minutes, it like I'm sure you guys can relate. Like there's this moment where you're like exhausted, where you're like emotionally exhausted. It's
Yeah.
because just you're not getting enough oxygen in,
Yeah.
and we're not meant to be doing that all day. So look, some days you're going to have to go back to back all day, and those are just, it's just life, right? We have to deal with it. But getting those little moments, so we keep coming back to that, right? Like those little breaks, it
Yeah.
can make the difference of, even that next meeting feeling like a little bit off. And then when you're off, maybe you're not as creative. Maybe you won't have that idea.
That
Um,
opportunity might not come and, who knows, right?
yeah. Like even when you're out to dinner with somebody or out to, lunch or whatever, examine what you're doing when that person gets up and goes to the bathroom. What's your first move, right? Because mine, it used to be all the time. Oh, someone just stood up, phone, check in,
Yeah.
how many emails, what's going on? Like, and it's like efficiency, check boxes. If you took that moment to just, this really got me when someone said this to me. They're like, you could have had this incredible idea or, or just feeling connected and not check your phone. You could have missed something, right? Like, or someone that just crossed the room that you recognize from years ago, like, got to be tuned into your life, tuned into the universe. Because if you're doing that, you're doing the right thing for you and who knows who around you. So it touches so many things.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Yes, I will be very mindful. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for offering that.
Well,
Okay, well, so how, like, tell me just like practically, now people know a little bit more what the shift is. I want to know, like, what are people reporting? Like, are you, so I know we talked about data not being necessary, but I'm still curious. Like, are you noticing an impact on like heart rate variability? Are you noticing an impact on sleep quality? Like, what are you, give me the
so we're
juice.
great question. Yeah. So we're about to do actually some empirical testing here because we have all of this anecdotal stuff come in, right? Of like people saying, and the top three things are really, it helps me in the morning, right? And because in the morning, right, you think about you're going from beta to alpha in terms of when you're sleeping, everything's great, right? You're breathing great, you're relaxed. You wake up, it's the first thing you do, check your phone, right? And it's like, oh, you launch into like 30 notifications, you're glancing your day in your head, and it's like, oof, like there's so much that has to happen. And then I have to get my kids ready, and I have to get ready, and then I can't be late because so like and then your breathing gets really shallow, and you're waking up probably unknowingly a lot of people into fight or flight mode. And you're doing that so often that it feels normal. And the normalization of that is a little scary because
Yeah,
that's becoming like cool. And it's not. Like try
yeah.
to just wake up. And that's why this shift works so well because it's physical. So you wake up into the tool, not into your phone. It's forcing you to do it, right? Anybody could just purse their lips and breathe slow, but this actually makes you do it because it's physical.
Mm-hmm.
So morning, it's like you're waking up. I call it like a hockey stance, like you're getting low and wide, and it feels good because the one thing that's never going to be late is stress and anxiety. The bus is never late. And then it's the commute, like we're in our cars, we're dealing with people that don't know how to drive. So like the slightest thing, and it's like, don't be surprised by somebody that just doesn't get it on the road. It's coming, expect it. And if you expect it, then you're not so annoyed when it happens, but you
Yeah.
can also engage with it there because it's physical. And then at night, when you're trying to wind down, when you're doing the math, right? You're trying to add up your day. This helps you get back to that cool space, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
physical, again, like you're engaging with it in a ritualistic way. And it's kind of interesting. You think about how you take care of your skin, your teeth, your nails, your hair. You have a routine for all that, right? Like you're brushing your teeth twice a day, no matter what. You have your hair care routine, your skin routine. What are you doing for your mind? I mean, what are
Mm-hmm.
you doing for that? Maybe once you'll work out or whatever, but are you doing something 2 or 3 times a day for your mind? Because if you're not, you're probably cheating your mind and you're reprioritizing other things. Not to say that your teeth aren't important, they are, but your how you feel, like your mental well-being is the most important, right? Everything trickles down from there. So in terms of data, we're going to, because we know that it lowers heart rate, we know that it lowers blood pressure, because what we like to say is that the tool isn't magical. It's not like this amazing like invention. It's just getting you to do it. And if it gets you to do it, then that's amazing, right? The
Yeah.
results are, it's like funny, people, when we introduce the tool, they're like, you're telling me that this tube is going to change my life? Like, come on. And I'm like, I get it. I was there. I, I looked at a straw and I said, there's no chance this is going to help me. And, there it was. There was the Frankenstein moment. It was like, wait a second. How, why haven't I learned this before? Like, and then once you learn the science of it, it's actually not that hard. But the kicker is you just forget. We just have too many things going on. So this becomes that way. And it's cool because we have all these clinicians that are affiliate partners. Like just yesterday, I was talking to a cardiologist, and he's like, can I tell you how many times I talk about your tool in that a patient will come in, they're having heart distress, right? Quote unquote. And then they do all the tests and everything looks fine. It's like, look, I know this is not the answer you wanted, but you have anxiety. You just have stress. Is everything what's going on in your life? And they're like, well, I had this new work project, or I'm going through relationship stress or whatever. And it's
Yep.
like, well, there it is, So it's
Yep.
like, here's the tool. And I know you're gonna, think this is placebo. It's not. It slows your heart rate because it's slowing your exhale. So you're taking less breaths per minute. And you look at longevity again, it's like, if we only have X amount of heartbeats in our lifetime and we can slow that down, right? Like, aren't we going to live longer because of that? And then it allows your mind to work better. So there's all these things we can do. And that's where I feel like, because wellness is so complex, there's an easy way to just get that first domino knocked over. And if you can do that every day, it's like, then you're proud of it. It's like, hey, I actually breathed consciously twice today.
Yeah.
Like, I know that might sound really nominal, but it's meaningful, because that means you took 2 timeouts today, 2 really good timeouts that got you a reset and made you better. And then imagine what's possible with 3 the next day. So it's all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And, what I love about this tool is just it's a reminder. It's a way to just anchor, like you said, in the 3D, in the physical, like, okay, I'm actually doing this. As human beings, our brain likes to pair things, action with something. And so this is a great way to just remind yourself of something that we already have within, right? The power of the breath. There's, a reason why breath work is so powerful. Like, it's just, Mother Nature was like, I'm going to give these guys the superpower of all. And that's the ability to go inwards and slow down and control hormones and heart rate and blood pressure and muscles and all of it. So it's just so incredible.
By the way, like, this is a little known fact, but even breathing like that can help your skincare, because you're exhaling 70% of your toxins just
Yes.
through the exhale, right? And so it's like, those toxins manifest in the skin a lot, and obviously can cause blocked pores and breakouts and all of that. So when you're breathing the right way, we actually work with skincare companies to pair our necklace with their skincare, and it makes sense, because when you're let's just say you are in your night routine, your skincare routine, which, how long does that take for you? Is it like a few minutes? Is it
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I could do that at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, or even, hair care, whatever it is, because you can multitask. You do it all day, right? Like, you are, you're perfectly capable of walking and chewing gum in that, because then when you're, when you're being intentional with your skin, you're present, right? You're looking at your skin. And if you can do the breathing, then what you might realize is that in a couple of weeks, it usually takes about 30 days for a habit to manifest. But if you can realize that all of a sudden now it's autopilot, now when you're applying, the skincare, you are breathing consciously and you're slowing your breath. And then what you might find after that is that you're super ready for bed. It's like, like, I'm kind of sleepy. Like, I feel like I can fall asleep easier. And those little drips you know, of like active well-being control are going to show up in your life. Like, you're going to be in those moods where you feel like, I know this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but like, you'll have more energy because you're expending yourself less. Like, you're not having to take 23 breaths per
Yep.
minute. You're like down to 12 or 13, whatever. Anything less than that is conserving energy, is increasing your rate of oxygen to carbon dioxide exchange. And it's like, all that is molecular, and it's communicating with your gut health. And the reason I'm kind of all over the place with talking about so many different things is like, I want to communicate that breath, it touches so many areas. It's incredible what happens. A lot of this research now is with the gut microbiome and how
Oh,
that's
yeah.
helping in ways, but it's all connect. All these circles are overlapping, and it's like, it's all right there.
Breath is life, right? So it's like it's as easy as that, and it creates more flow in the body. So, and I love what you've mentioned about detoxing, because I always talk about that, especially when I take people through the liver detox protocol that I have, because there's 4 ways we move toxins out, and one of them is through our exhale. And which also is going to help to clear out the lungs. And I mean, It's so good. So thank you for bringing that up because it's so important. That's a big selling factor for me right there.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, actually at our last call, I talked to my wife about that. She's like, "Yes, I absolutely need that." And I will say this: it has got to be harder for women, only because I know that sometimes she'll ask me, and I'm proud of this, but she'll be like, "What are you thinking about right now?" Because I'll just be driving or something,
Mhm.
and I'm like, nothing. I don't know. I'm just driving, And she's like, "What do you mean nothing? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what
Meanwhile,
does that
we
even?"
have like 150 things popping in our head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, "I'm planning our kids' birthday parties like 3 years out." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you don't have to do that." But I understand that there's this other instinct that's built in there, and which I'll never be able to understand. But it's like she's my business partner too. So she's got to juggle these massive boulders that are like, okay, her life and her well-being. And there's like being a wife, and then there's being a mother, and then there's like doing this business, and she's trying to start something else. And it's like, whew, it's a lot. And
Yeah.
I see it sometimes, and I'm like, "Hey, where are you right now? Like, where are you here?" Or, and she's always like, "No, of course not." But it's hard. And I think that the measuring stick should become more about progress, right? Like, not perfection. And I wish more people out there would just get to a place where any progress is great. Any progress is meaningful, because all of that does is roll up into more progress, and you feel so much better about yourself. Even with this like liver detox, you do something good for yourself. And it's like this patting your back. It's like, "Hey, good job." And then you're
Hmm.
starting to talk to yourself like a friend, and not
Yeah.
like, "Well, you could have done that better." Like, we're all our biggest self-critics, and that's in some ways good. But if we give ourselves a pat on the back, and I'm being literal here about, you take a breath break, you do it for 30 seconds, you celebrate that. Like,
You
give
get the
yourself
right to celebrate. Yes.
round of applause, because that actually, like, and there's also studies done that say that when you're vocal about, and I know this is weird to do this like out loud, but maybe you don't even want to be around, but if you say to yourself, "Hey, I'm proud of you," or look in the mirror and say that, ooh, I got chills just saying that, because I do that sometimes, and my wife will be like, "Who are you talking to?" But I do that because audibly I need to hear myself say it, and the brain kind of doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
So like they say that if you smile when you're on the phone, like the other person can
Feel
feel
it.
that smile
Totally.
somehow. So it's like there's all these little nuances that can roll up to, living better. And if you can just give yourself that adulation that I'm sure it's somewhere in yourself, you're craving, you're gonna see that about 30 seconds later, you're gonna get this feeling of like, ooh, like every morning. I followed this from years ago, but this guy's like, "All right, all these deep breaths, and then I want you to look in the mirror and say, 'I love you,' 10 times." And I was like, "There's no way I'm doing that." It just sounds completely ridiculous. And I don't do it every morning, but when I do notice this little, like, that little tick, and I'm doing the active breathing through the shift too. But it's when you combine different modalities of well-being together, you start small, right? But when you combine two, like gratitude, you're getting into a state where it's like things are better, and I don't know why, but I like it.
Yeah.
And you keep
Let
doing it.
Oh, that's so good. And yeah, I mean, it's a perfect way to end this conversation that could last for another, day. But I'm just grateful for everything that was shared here. And thank you for also witnessing how sometimes it can be challenging to be a woman and have a woman's brain. So thank you for witnessing that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I witness it, and I respect it. And it's something where if we can try to understand each other and work towards that, it can just make that relationship better, and understanding yourself too. So this is
Totally.
fun. Like you said, we could keep going on and on. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for the opportunity to obviously discuss with you, and to meet your audience.
Yeah, and I'm excited because you've agreed to sponsor the fam retreat that is happening in Mexico. So everybody's going to get to experience the shift, literally, that they're going to be experiencing within. And we're going to be really threading that tool into a lot of the things we'll do. So I'm excited. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. And I've heard great things about your retreat. So I'm so happy that our little tool and discovery is going to find its way all the way out there, and I'm sure it'll be an amazing experience.
Yeah. And for now, if anybody wants to learn more about your company, about Kumuso, or wants to buy a shift, where should they go, or can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. So the website is Komuso. It's Komuso, Kumuso Design, and there'll be a little discount in the link here that you can buy. And it's also a great gift for whatever occasion, birthday, Father's Day, Mother's Day, graduation. It's something that I promise you they don't have this,
No,
and it is a super authentic way to say, hey, like this can change your life much
I
better
care
than
about you.
yeah, exactly. So, and we call it jewelry with purpose because it actually has the underlying health function and utility behind it. So, so yeah. And any questions, we thrive on, active customer service. So, always happy to talk. And if you want to connect with me, my name is Todd and my email is todd@komusodesign.com. Always happy to connect.
Beautiful. And we'll put those in the show notes. Thank you so much for your generosity of time, of passion, of commitment to making this world, a better place. Thank you so much, Todd. And I can't wait to see you around.
I had a lot of fun, and right back at you. You're a transformational person, and I'm grateful that you're doing this out there. It's really helping a lot of people.
Thank you. The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.